Welcome back everyone to Tech Forward, episode 129. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Mark. Great to be back. Jenny, you know how we keep circling back to security and just how convoluted things are getting online?
Oh yeah. It feels like every week there's some new twist, some clever scam, or another way people are trying to fool systems. Especially, I notice, when it comes to just proving you are who you say you are online.
Exactly. Like signing up for a new bank account, accessing sensitive health records, or even some higher stakes online services. That whole prove you're you step, it's becoming a real digital battleground. And the fraudsters, well, they're not just using crowbars anymore, they're using scalpels. AI-powered scalpels.
Right? You hear about deepfakes, synthetic identities. It honestly sounds like plot points from a sci-fi thriller, but it's the daily grind for security teams now. So in this arms race, what's the latest shield?
Well, that's what caught my eye this week. There's this company, Trust Swiftly, and they just rolled out a new platform. It's specifically built to tackle this rise in AI-driven fraud, especially around identity proofing. And their approach has some...
Okay, Trust Swiftly. Filing that away. What's their main strategy? What makes them stand out in a pretty crowded field?
So, the core idea they're pushing is this hybrid times model. It's not purely automated, machines checking everything algorithmically, and it's not solely reliant on humans, which would be way too slow. It blends the two.
Okay, hybrid. Like a Prius, but for identity? How does that work in practice? Does it mean someone's actually watching my selfie upload?
Haha, not quite Big Brother. It's more nuanced, thankfully. They call it supervised remote identity proofing. Think of it like this. The system uses AI to rapidly analyze a whole suite of data points during the verification process. They boast having over 20 different verification methods in their toolkit.
20 methods? Wow, that sounds thorough. What kind of checks are we talking about?
It's a mix and match approach, depending on the required level of assurance. You've got document verification, scanning driver's licenses, passports from over 200 jurisdictions. Then there are various biometric checks, facial recognition, voice prints, even fingerprint scans via mobile sensors. And, importantly, robust liveness detection.
Okay, liveness detection. That term keeps popping up. With deepfakes getting so convincing, I imagine that's critical. What does it actually do beyond just matching a face to an IID photo?
Exactly. It's designed to confirm the presence of a real, times live, times person, during the check. Not just a static photo held up to the camera. Not a pre-recorded video. Not even one of those hyper-realistic masks or a digital deepfake puppet. It's looking for signs of genuine biological presence.
How? Does it just ask you to blink or turn your head? I've done those.
Sometimes it involves active checks like that. Blink, smile, follow a dot. But increasingly, it's about asterisk passive liveness. The system analyzes the video feed for subtle cues. Some techniques analyze texture and reflection on the skin. Others look for micro movements in the face or tiny variations in illumination. Some advanced methods even use infrared signals, supposedly analyzing heat patterns or blood flow just beneath the skin. Things that are incredibly difficult to replicate convincingly with current digital or physical fakes.
Okay, that's definitely more sophisticated than just asking me to blink. So the AI handles the document scan, the biometric match, the liveness check. Where do the humans fit into this hybrid model?
They act as the expert review layer, the sort of appeal court. If the automated system flags something as potentially risky or just uncertain, maybe the ID photo is slightly damaged, the lighting during the selfie was weird, or the liveness check raised a small yellow flag, not a definitive red one. Then, times it can escalate the case.
Escalate it to
a trained human analyst. These aren't just random call center folks. They're specialists, trained in document inspection and fraud detection. They can take a closer look at the flagged issue, maybe request an additional verification step, and make a judgment call. It's like having a safety net for the AI.
So it aims for the best of both worlds? Speed and efficiency from the AI for the straightforward cases. I saw Trust Swiftly claims verification can happen in less than 45 seconds sometimes?
Yeah, for many standard verifications, it's designed to be very quick. But for the edge cases, the ambiguous ones, you bring in human expertise. This helps prevent those frustrating computer says no situations where a legitimate person gets blocked by a rigid algorithm. And, crucially, It helps catch clever fraudsters who might find a loophole in a purely automated defense.
That makes intuitive sense. You need layers. I remember reading some expert commentary, might have been Patrick Scanlon from Synapse FI. He emphasized that layered defenses are essential because attackers figure out how to bypass single-point solutions so quickly these days.
Precisely his point. It's all about creating enough friction to deter or catch the bad actors, without making the process overly burdensome for legitimate users. It's a constant balancing act. Trust Swiftly also uses something called dynamic knowledge-based authentication, or KBA, as another layer.
Okay, KBA rings a bell. Isn't that like those security questions banks used to ask? What was the name of your first pet? Or, what street did you grow up on? Stuff that feels kind of public now?
You're thinking of static asterisk, KBA? And you're right, that's become less secure. Fraudsters can often find that info through public records, social media stalking, or unfortunately, massive data breaches where that info gets leaked.
Yeah, my first pet's name is probably floating around the dark web somewhere, sadly.
Probably. Dynamic KBA is different. It generates questions based on more timely, often private data, usually sourced from credit bureaus or other secure databases. Think questions like, which of these addresses have you been associated with recently? Or, you may have taken out a loan with one of these institutions in the last 5 years. Which one? Information that's much harder for an imposter to guess or find online quickly.
Ah, okay. So it's pulling from data that isn't just sitting on my old MySpace profile. That feels more robust. So we have document checks, advanced biometrics with liveness, dynamic questions, and then human analysts as backup. It does sound like a multi-pronged defense.
They definitely seem confident in it. Which leads to the other part of their announcement that really raised eyebrows. They've launched a public bounty challenge.
A bounty? You mean like, hey hackers, try and break our system, we dare you?
Pretty much. They're offering a $100,000 reward to anyone who can successfully spoof their systems. Specifically, the challenge is to bypass their biometric and liveness detection measures under conditions simulating a high-assurance verification process. I believe it's targeting the NIST IAL3 standard, which is a stringent benchmark for remote identity proofing.
$100,000? That's a statement. Why would a company do that? Isn't that just painting a giant target on their back?
It's certainly bold, but it's a strategy we're seeing more in the security world. Think of the bug bounty programs big tech companies run, where they pay white hat or ethical hackers to find vulnerabilities in their software. This is like that, but very public and focused on a specific, critical component.
So the thinking is, if motivated experts actively trying to win $100,000 can't fool our liveness detection, then regular fraudsters probably can't either.
That's the powerful marketing message, yes. It's a huge display of confidence in their technology, particularly the liveness aspect, which is so crucial against AI fakes. Plus, let's be honest, it generates significant buzz. And there's a practical security benefit too.
Which is?
Well, time someone actually succeeds or finds a near-miss vulnerability while trying, Trust Swiftly learns about that weakness in a controlled way. They can then strengthen their defenses before malicious actors discover and exploit the same flaw out in the wild. I know another company specializing in this, FaceTech, has had a long-running spoof bounty program, and research suggests it has genuinely helped them harden their system against evolving attack methods over the years by finding those edge cases.
Okay, I see the logic. It's like extreme stress testing, crowdsourced. Still, it makes me think about all the data involved. We're talking about facial scans, voice prints, ID documents, potentially answers to dynamic KBA questions.
You've hit on the critical tension here. Implementing powerful verification is one thing, but doing it responsibly, without creating a privacy nightmare, is the other side of the coin. It's a real ethical tightrope.
Exactly. Collecting and storing all this sensitive biometric data, it feels inherently risky. What happens to it? How is it protected? Especially with strict regulations like GDPR in Europe or CCPA in California demanding specific handling.
That's a massive consideration, and companies in this space have to address it head-on. Trust Swiftly, like others, talks about robust encryption, secure architecture, and compliance measures. For instance, they mention offering data localization options. This means a European bank using their service could choose to have all the verification data for its EU customers stored exclusively within EU borders. helping meet GDPR requirements.
Okay, data localization helps with legal compliance. But the data still exists somewhere, right? Even if it's stored regionally. Large, centralized databases of biometric identifiers. Those just sound like honeypots. Didn't we see a huge breach at Capital One a few years back involving sensitive customer data? Biometrics feel even more personal.
They absolutely are tempting targets. And yes, the Capital One breach is a stark reminder of the risks when large data sets are compromised. Strong encryption, access controls, regular security audits. These are non-negotiable basics. But it's a constant arms race between defenders and attackers. And beyond security, there's the persistent challenge of fairness and bias in the AI itself.
Ah, right. Can these facial recognition algorithms, for instance, work equally well for everyone, regardless of skin tone, age, gender, or other features? I know that's been a concern.
It's a significant and ongoing challenge for the entire industry. Studies, like those from NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, have shown that many algorithms exhibit demographic differentials in performance. They might be less accurate for certain groups, potentially leading to higher false rejection rates for legitimate users. Or worse, higher false acceptance rates for imposters targeting specific demographics. Ensuring fairness and inclusivity is a technical and ethical hurdle.
So, that computer says no problem we mentioned could disproportionately affect some people more than others if the AI isn't trained or tested properly. That brings me back to the human reviewers in Trust Swiftly's hybrid model. Does incorporating people help mitigate some of these AI issues? And what about their jobs? Does this model actually preserve roles or just delay automation?
That's a really interesting angle. The human element can potentially catch errors or biases that the AI might make, providing a crucial check. Regarding jobs, the research suggests a mixed picture. Compared to full automation, these hybrid models likely do preserve some analyst roles, maybe needing around 30% of the manual review workforce that might otherwise be eliminated. These roles often require more skill, focusing on complex cases rather than routine checks. However, it's still a shift. Automation handles the bulk, and those human roles might require significant upskilling.
So it's not just about catching bad guys, but also about managing the societal impacts. User privacy, algorithmic fairness, the future of work. It's incredibly complex.
Definitely. And the landscape keeps shifting. Looking ahead, the threats will continue to evolve. We're seeing AI being used for hyper-personalized phishing attacks, more sophisticated social engineering, maybe even real-time voice cloning during verification calls.
Ugh, please no. The thought of getting a perfectly cloned voice call from a scammer pretending to be family, that's deeply unsettling.
Right? So verification systems will need to adapt continuously, maybe incorporating things like behavioral biometrics, how you type or move your mouse, or perhaps sophisticated voice stress analysis to detect deception or synthesize speech. Now, and then there's the longer term, potentially disruptive force looming, quantum computing.
Yes. The quantum elephant in the room. The idea that future quantum computers could potentially shatter the encryption methods we rely on today to protect all this sensitive data feels a bit distant, but
for organizations handling incredibly sensitive, long-lasting data like biometrics, the need to plan for post-quantum cryptography isn't that distant at all. Some projections suggest action might be needed within the next decade, maybe by the early 2030s, to ensure data remains secure against future quantum attacks. It's a slow burn issue that needs attention now.
Okay, so recapping this whirlwind. Identity verification is locked in an escalating battle with increasingly sophisticated AI-powered fraud. Companies like Trust Swiftly are responding with layered, hybrid defenses, mixing advanced AI, particularly liveness detection, with crucial human oversight.
Yep, and they're signaling strong confidence with moves like that $100,000 public spoof bounty, using it as both a marketing tool and a real-world security test. It highlights how critical trust and assurance are in this space.
But, as we discussed, it simultaneously throws these vital ethical questions into sharp relief. How do we protect user privacy with biometric data? How do we ensure fairness and avoid bias in the algorithms? And how does this technology reshape jobs? These are questions we, and likely our listeners, need to keep asking.
Couldn't agree more, Jenny. It's a space that's developing rapidly, impacting almost every aspect of our digital lives. Definitely one we'll keep watching.
Indeed. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for unpacking all that, Mark. And a big thank you to all of you for tuning in to Tech Forward.
Always a pleasure, Jenny. We'll catch everyone next time.